Hello and welcome. It's been a long time since we had one of these faith formation moments with you. Pastor Mary Ann's not with me right now. She's on vacation. We had taken off the month of August for our gospel lessons together and doing our Bible studies. But I want to continue them today by myself here and hope you don't mind too much. But this week we were talking about the Gospel of Matthew will be our gospel lesson for this coming Sunday. And Matthew 16:13 to 20. And as normal, we talk and we go off center sometimes. But in this, we have Jesus talking to Peter and talking to the disciples in general, talking about who do you say I am? And Peter makes a bold statement, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus answered him, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. For flesh and blood have not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. On this rock. So we talked about flesh and blood didn't reveal it to you, and on this rock, and we think so many times about the church being rocks. Sanctuaries, foundations, and walls and steeples and naves and all the things that go into what we think normally as the church. But the church is defined as the people of God, as the community of Christ. That is the definition of the church. So how is church transformed back into building materials? And I believe something has changed that, though, recently. And I believe it's transformed through the COVID experience. And while we're in this crisis, I think we've also learned that the church, the sanctuary, which we can't go into, many sanctuaries we can't go into, or even into the fellowship halls and the Christian ed buildings and so forth, have been changed and transformed to a virtual experience. And I think it's good. I think it's good for the reason that it gets us back to what the church is, the body of Christ. Nowhere does it say that the church is a foundation of stones and mortar, bricks and tar paper and slate and asbestos shingles. It's a bad word, asbestos. So anyway, but what is the church? And I want to share with you a reading here and a devotion and commentary by Richard Rohr. Jesus was introducing what, in today's parlance, might be called a disruptive technology, where sustaining technology stimulate incremental improvements, like, say, going from a rotary phone to a touchtone phone to a keypad phone, or even from a landline to a wireless phone. A disruptive technology displaces established assumption, as in, say, combining a phone, a camera, a computer, a musical library, and a player, and a GPS device, and a mobile internet portal all in one. The old status quo is disrupted, the game changes, and old technologies become irrelevant. We talked about this past Sunday, and you can check that out on our Facebook page and also our website at newhanoverlutheran.org, and see that this past Sunday and during the video worship services, we talked about how things have changed with COVID. And we're worshiping in a picnic grove now, not inside the sanctuary. We're coming to you virtually for faith formation, as Martin Luther was challenged to do in the 1500s, and write the small catechism and large catechism, where he put in the hands of the parents the learning factors of what it means to be in the body of Christ. And we're doing that today, sending virtually and through the internet and Facebook and our website and then by email. And our faith formation teams are sending information to the families, and people can do VBS at home, and also Camp Faulkner was virtual and real, and sharing it over Facebook, and then also participating in it live out in the picnic grove. And so all these things have changed. They have been transformed. He goes on to say in about some relative gospels to the one we read in Matthew. In John's gospel, Jesus continues to use the imagery of disruption in John 3 and 4. First, he tells a man that in spite of all his learning, in spite of all his status, he needs to go back and start over, to be born again. Perhaps the most apt image for disruption ever. To be born again, to be renewed. You get that? We use that born again statement so many times. In the 70s was a huge statement about becoming a Christian, be born again, and bumper stickers everywhere. Didn't have the same meaning. It meant for us to transform ourselves. Then he tells a woman that the location of worship doesn't matter at all. Does that ring a bell? Picnic Grove parking lot, in your home, in your lazy boy. It's funny that, people have mentioned to me, like, Pastor, I'm really having a hard time coming back, and I know the Picnic Grove, it looks a lot of fun, but, I'm in my pajamas, and I have a warm cup of coffee, and I'm sitting in my lazy boy watching you and having just as much fun, so. But you see how it's gone from the sanctuary to a lazy boy, so that's pretty cool. Which in their day meant that temples were irrelevant. Today, our temples, our sanctuary, has it become irrelevant? And right now during COVID period, yes, because we are doing things ministry-wise, church-wise, body-wise, out in the public, helping and changing lives. What matters, Jesus says, is the attitude or spirit, or authenticity or truth of the worshiper. Jesus was calling for a radical disruption in religion, in his religion. A great spiritual migration and similar disruption and migration are needed no less today in a religion that names itself after him, Christians. Jesus was disruptive. He changed the whole mode of thinking. He took the Jewish world, the Canaanite world, the Sumerian world, and turned it all upside down. The people he touched during those 3 years of his ministry was phenomenal. The Romans even, and the way they did government, and saw change. And then later, for 300 years, it was passed underground from country to country to country by word of mouth through flesh and blood. It wasn't a legal religion. They couldn't build churches for 300 years until Constantine, a Roman emperor, took over and was baptized and made religion his religion. And then all of a sudden, Christians could own property, could build a church or sanctuary, a nave, a building to worship in and to gather in. But until that time, they weren't allowed to. So the church for 300 years and a rapid spread of this way, this movement called the Way, which later be called Christians, was effective. It was powerful. It changed leaders. It changed the Roman emperor and how he done things, how he looked at things, and how he built things, and how he worshiped and lived his daily life. It changed the most powerful empire in the world. But it just didn't change in an act of putting up buildings, and that's what changed people. It was in the heart. It was in the flesh and blood. So we go back to this statement about Jesus talking to Peter. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. This rock, so to speak, is flesh and blood. So much has changed and transformed during this crisis. Our ministries have been changed from the building to out in the community. We are no longer having people come in to the building to do our ministries because we can't, because of COVID rules and safety and keeping everybody healthy. But we go to them. Our food ministry delivers meals to the people. It's flesh and blood, putting the meals on the porch or handing them to the people with gloves on and the masks, which now everybody has. But it's been transformed. People don't come to the church to pick up their meals. We deliver it to them, flesh and blood, being the body of Christ, spreading the good news. Also, what we have is in the future, our foundation of the church may revert back from stone to this flesh and blood. And as Jesus relates to it, he later calls living stones. And I believe that's what we are as Christians, you and I, and anybody else who are studying here and walking with us. We are living stones. And I believe that is the foundation and the rock that Jesus built this Christianity upon. So I ask you, I'll leave you with a couple questions today. What is the rock you build your faith on? And also, what does it mean to change or transform our vision of the church from a building to a flesh and blood person of Christ? Living stones. And so till next week, and until Pastor Marianne comes back and we begin our studies again together, I look forward to seeing you, and look forward if you wish to comment on Facebook or send us a message here on our website. I invite you to do that, or you can email me at pastor@newhanoverlutheran.org, and you can send your response or give me a call at the church and want to discuss any of these thoughts. So until next time, go get them. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.